Hello and welcome to Global Eye. I'm Parikshit Luthra. Major developments in Russia. Prominent opposition leader and a fierce critic of President Putin, Alexei Navalny, has died at the Arctic prison colony where he was serving a 19-year jail term. The prison service said Navalny lost consciousness after going for a walk and could not be revived by medical professionals. Russia's investigative committee will be opening an investigation into his death. Navalny had garnered a huge following over his criticism of the Putin government. Let's move on to the other big story we are tracking. The world has its eyes on the UK election. And yes, UK's ruling Conservative Party lost two strongholds to the opposition Labour Party in the recently held by-elections. Labour lawmakers overturned big majorities in Kingswood and Wellingborough, the second biggest swing from Tories to Labour in any by-election post-war. This comes as a double whammy for Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's already embattled leadership. The Conservative Party, which is in power for 14 years, is also trailing in the national opinion polls. Moreover, Britain's economy also fell into a recession in the second half of 2023 as GDP contracted by 0.3%. So how does this impact Prime Minister Sunak's administration and the upcoming UK elections? Let's go across to my colleague Sanjay Suri for more.
It's been one setback after another for Rishi Sunak over the last couple of days. On Friday, the Conservative Party lost two critical by-elections that had been held in Kingswood and Wellingborough constituencies. Both had been held earlier by the Conservatives with a heavy majority, and Labour overturned that in both to win quite convincingly, and of course for the Tories quite worryingly. The Conservatives had a majority of about 18,000 in Wellingborough, which is massive by British standards. Labour overturned that to win by more than 6,000 votes, and this has marked the second biggest upset in any constituency result in post-war elections in Britain. In the other constituency, Kingswood, the Conservatives had a majority of about 11,000. Again, quite substantial, and here Labour beat the Tories to win by about 2,500 votes. Still clear enough. Remember that the smallest margin for a current MP in Britain is 57 votes.
All right, let's now take this forward. We are joined by Burzine Waghmar from London's SOAS South Asia Institute. Burzine, let me begin by asking you, why are these losses in by-elections very significant, and what does the larger impact mean for the upcoming election?
First things first, this is the 10th consecutive loss for the Tories, and it will continue if there are more by-elections, standby turf by-elections if they do occur. And Mr. Sunak may try to plaster the situation this morning, as he said, that there is work to be done, which is an understatement, and that there are certain challenges. That's just political speak. But he is in a very sticky situation. There's no denying that. Parliament must be dissolved by 17th December, and elections must be held, national elections, by 20th January 2025. So we have 650 seats in the House of Commons, which will be up for grabs, and the majority party, whichever that might be, needs 326 to constitute a government. The Tories, since the 2019 election, are down. They are down to 349, so they've lost about a good 16 seats from 365. In terms of Labour, it's down too, but negligible, from 202 to 199. But that does not mean that Labour can be complacent. They may be pleased with these victories that have consecutively occurred, but at the same time, there is much work to be done. Most British voters feel dejected, and they feel they are confronted by a Hobson's choice with either the Tories or the Labour Party. And with the current Rochdale by-election, which was absolutely disgraceful, when at the very last minute, only reluctantly, when mounting evidence was pointed out to Sir Keir Starmer.
Let me also ask you, Sunak had promised to put the economy on track. He has not been able to do so far.
Nothing of the sort, despite the 5 pledges
available. Is there enough time right now? Do you feel that the Labour Party is more popular when it comes to the hopes of Britons in putting the economy back on track?
Not particularly. There is no hope in terms of either party. And in speaking of entering a recession, which we did yesterday, formally, technically speaking, of course, Germany is on the edge of doing so. Japan has also entered a recession. But what makes it grimmer in our situation, is that in our case, we have high interest rates and also higher inflation in the UK compared to Germany, thanks to the fact that we've had consistently lower investment in lower rate investment in putting in as such for wage growth as well as for investment overall, which makes the situation for us here grimmer. One of the pledges of Mr. Sunak was of debt. In proportion to the economy, as we speak, Parikshit, the debt to size of the economy stands at 97.7%. Inflation is the only parameter on which Mr. Sunak can claim a hollow victory. It has been halved. It stands at 4% as we speak. But again, there is every reason to believe that it will rise because there is nothing sure from Bank of England of dampening or reducing interest rates as such. So Mr. Sunak's got his work cut out for him, but so does the Labour Party.
Right. Burzine, if I were to ask you about the Labour leader, Keir Starmer, in case the Labour Party wins the election, how do you expect Keir Starmer to differentiate from Rishi Sunak's policies? What are some of the work done by Rishi Sunak which could be possibly overturned?
Well, not much, because the pessimistic view, which is doing the rounds, is that Sir Keir may have revived some of the Labour Party's fortunes after its decline into a hard-left abyss under Jeremy Corbyn and populist politics. But what will happen is that according to Sir Keir's detractors, Labour detractors, whether not just Tory voters, but across the spectrum who are non-Labour and Tory voters feel that we would see a revival of 1997, namely Blairite internationalists would come at the helms. So that is where the party would be headed under Sir Keir Starmer, should they were to win.
All right. All right, let me go across to Farrukh Dhondy, well-known columnist who's joining us from the UK. Mr. Dhondy, thank you very much. Let me ask you, what does this by-election really mean for the Conservatives, for Rishi Sunak? It seems that he is running out of options.
It's the most dreadful blow that the Tories have suffered since their last by-election defeats. This is the fourth by-election defeat that they have faced. And it was so decisive because in one of the seats in Kingswood and in the other one, Wellingborough, they lost by 28.6%. And that has never been, that kind of percentage has never been seen in a by-election in the swing between Tory votes and Labour. So Labour has got captured 2 seats. There's a third seat coming up on the 29th of February. That's a bit more dodgy because Labour has disowned their own candidate called Azhar Ali for making certain remarks about Israel and Gaza. And so they've disowned him. But he's still standing as Labour, but he might not win. Let's see. That's on the 29th. But this is a decisive blow for Rishi Sunak and his cabinet.
If we look at the recent polls done by YouGov.com, the popularity of Rishi Sunak is at 25%. He's disliked by 51% of the electorate. Is there any other face within the Conservatives who can pull things through for them? And what will be the major issues that will be at play in the upcoming election?
There are several people who are standing for election or standing for an alternative to Rishi Sunak. One of them is Nigerian-born Kemi Badenoch, and the other one is Penny Mordaunt. And Penny Mordaunt just made the only public thing that Penny Mordaunt ever did was carry a big sword in King George III's coronation, and I don't know whether, King Charles III's coronation. And she was known for that, photographed all over the place, televised. But otherwise, one doesn't know what she stands for. Kemi Badenoch is a kind of compromise candidate, but they both of them are resolved to losing the election and replacing Rishi Sunak after he loses the election as the opposition leader rather than as a prime ministerial candidate.
Mr. Dhondy? Right.
Yeah.
Mr. Dhondy, one more question that I'd like to ask you is about the continuity, the support for the relationship with India. We're in the final stages of the FTA, but definitely not there as yet. Is there political will, the political stomach in the UK government and the Conservatives to sign a deal right now, or you expect it to fall after the election takes place?
The UK government is desperate to sign a deal now with India because Brexit has by and large failed. And so they have to demonstrate that Brexit has allowed them to make deals outside the European Union. And that means that the Indian deal becomes extremely important for Rishi Sunak. He will say, look, I've made a deal with non-European countries which are extremely profitable for us. What happened earlier when they tried that deal was Suella Braverman, who was the Home Secretary, kind of interfered and meddled with it, saying, I will stop Indians having visas as students or as laborers because they bring their families here and that is not good for the country and so on. And so Rishi had to get rid of her. He's got rid of Suella Braverman. He's got a new Home Secretary, and that might actually assist in doing a deal with India, seeing that the student visas work and so forth.
Right. Mr. Dhondy and Burzine Waghmar, thank you very much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you on the program to speak about India-UK ties. We are heading into a short break, but coming up on the other side, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, led by jailed ex-Prime Minister Imran Khan, has begun staging nationwide protests against what they allege massive and brazen rigging in the central elections. A discussion with senior Pakistani journalist Hamid Mir when we're back.